So, good evening again. We're going to talk about MSIE security zones and their usage in the corporate network. So, I'm working for a French security company, and you will be able to download the last presentation on my website here. Okay, so we have to be fast. We have only 20 minutes, so we are going to see some general points. Then I will show you how to create some custom MSIE security zones, and then we will conclude. Okay, some general points. Why IE security zones? In fact, you know that a lot of companies use internally IE as their corporate web browser. They don't have choice sometimes, so everybody can't use Mozilla, etc. So they have IE installed and they want to secure it, okay, to secure browsing habits in their companies. So they need to protect their users against some hostile codes like viruses, worm, etc., spyware, some kind of spyware, and also some hostile web servers. You saw that hostile web servers are not proof of concept anymore. You have now real hostile web servers, so you have to protect against that.
Another part of the problem that
Sorry?
Another part of the problem with Internet Explorer uses the rendering engine for something online, like Chrome Express or Outlook. And one of the ways that, in addition to hostile web servers, you see hostile links.
Yeah, exactly. Hostile web servers and also hostile emails. Okay, so companies need different policies depending on the website accessed by their users. So their users are allowed to access professional websites, tolerated websites. At lunchtime, for example, they can surf on eBay, I don't know, something like that, and they have really forbidden websites. Also, each company can set a set of ActiveX allowed or not in the company, and we will see together how to enable or not some ActiveXs. Okay, so now MSIE security zones. So security zones are stored in two locations in the registry, one in the local machine hive and one in the current user hive. So these settings are additive. You can set some parameters in one and some other parameters in the other, and the settings are additive. But you can set only your custom website, your URLs, your domain names in the current user hive. And if you want to enable only computer settings for every user on the same machine, you can set this value, so the value security, in this registry key, and the current user settings are not taken into account. Only the local machine is taken into account. It can be useful if you want to, if you have some computers accessed or used by several people, and if you want the same parameters used by everyone, it's a good way to do it. And in this key, the key we saw, you have three subkeys: template policies, where you can define default parameters for each zone, zone map that contains domains and protocols with custom behaviors, so you can add your URLs here, your domain names, etc. for each zone. And you have the zone key containing all your zones. So you have 4 zones by default, and you can add zones. We are going to see it. Okay, so the built-in zones are from 0 to 4. So the 0 zone is my computer. It's a hidden zone by default, but you have it on your computer. And you see in IE parameters the 4 zones: local internet zone, trusted sites, internet, and restricted sites. You know all that, I think. You can unhide the My Computer zone, so the purely local zone. You can set the flag value in the 0 key to 71 decimal. And you are going to see that My Computer becomes visible. Okay. In fact, the flags word determines how users can modify parameters for each zone. Something very interesting. In fact, when you save locally an HTML page from the internet, you can set a parameter in the file on your computer to open the HTML page as if it was in one of the security zones. It's Microsoft calls this the mark of the web. It's a tag like this, like an HTML comment saved from URL equals, you have the URL length and the URL used to open the page. So if you put foo.example.com in the restricted zone security zone, then when you open your local file, your local HTML page, it will be opened like if it was in the restricted zone. It can be useful. Then the easiest way to create a new security zone, it's as usual, you can export the closest zone to your need. So if you want to create a new zone that would be like the restricted zone, you can export the restricted zone to a .reg file. Then you modify the exported file to modify the zone number, flags, icon, name, etc. We're going to see that. And then you re-import the .reg file into your registry. And then you can use the graphical user interface to modify the parameters like the other zones, in fact. So before you have the 4 default built-in zones, and after you have the My Computer zone on the right, and your new custom zone, like for example trusted site here. Okay, you can set a different icon, a different name, etc. So that is a side effect. We are going to see that. I'm going to show you. Okay, for example, here, DEFCON. You see, I'm going to. Yeah, I have 6 zones here. My Computer, and another zone here. You have a side effect here. In this interface, you can see the real name you specified in the registry. You have here some data. We are going to talk about this with the Microsoft team. But if you specified a website here, for example, test.com, and you go to this site, test.com, okay, you see here, it's not very visible. You see at the lower right corner, then we are in the friendly sites security zone. It's my new zone, as you can see here in my registry, in internet settings, zones. Oh yes, it's a local machine here. Current user. In my 5th security zone, it's in fact friendly sites. Okay, here. So I created a 5th security zone. The icon I chose is specified here. So you can see here. The icon you have here is the same than the one here. So we are really in the 5th security zone. Okay? Okay, so we've just seen that. I have to go fast. Now, administrator approved ActiveX. You know that you have 4 choices to execute or not ActiveXs in your IE. So you have to prompt the user to execute or not ActiveX. You can forbid any ActiveX, you can execute any ActiveX, and you can execute only administrator-approved ActiveXs. So where do you specify which ActiveXs are approved or not? In fact, it's in this registry key, in the current user hive, and you can see also the approved ActiveXs in the MMC. You load the GPO snapping, you browse to local computer policy and user configuration, and you see this. You have an ActiveX list here, and you can enable or disable which you want. So, for example, Flash is used on a huge number of websites, so you have to enable it in your corporate network. So this one is enabled. The others are disabled, as you can see. In the registry, sorry, you can go allowed controls. They are stored here with their CLS ID here. So you can add your own CLS IDs here, and if you put 0, it's allowed, and if you specify 1 here, it's forbidden, disabled. Yeah?
Is that global MSIE, or is that doesn't sound like it's applying to particular zone?
It's global for IE, yes. You can't approve some ActiveXs for one zone and not the other. Too bad.
And so if you approve it for anything, does that mean if it's IE, if ActiveX is restricted entirely from the zone, that can still run, or is that restricted?
I think it's restricted. You have some more information?
So this list is global to IE, but it's only applied when the rule, what we call the rule action, or that zone section is approved. So for example, in your environment, you might set the internet zone only run administrator approved ActiveX rules. And at that point, you would pick up this list. Okay. But the restricted site zone, which is the high security, no script, no Java, no ActiveX, would not use this. Only the zones that are configured to administrator approved.
Okay. He's from the Microsoft IE team, so he's the...
We have a couple of folks from IE here.
Yeah. He's the Bible. I'm that.
You guys actually have a lot of great information here, and I'm really glad to see folks investigating this and learning. So,
Thank you very much.
I want your feedback too.
Okay. Okay. So it's a screenshot of what we saw. The deployment. Once you configured your policy for IE, for your zones, for your ActiveXs, how do you deploy it on your corporate network to each workstation? So you have some means. You can use IE/AK, so Internet Explorer administration kit, but you can use also GPOs. To configure GPOs, it's also in the MMC, so we are going to see this. Sort of controls, yes, and you see you have a node here, Internet Explorer maintenance, and you have a security node here with security zones and some parameters. And if you see the properties, you can import, in fact, your current settings here. You can modify them if you want. Then generate a GPO, and I think you can deploy all these GPOs on your workstations. So it's very, very easy to do so. Okay. So we have to go faster. Oh no, okay, we are on time. Okay. Sorry? Oh yeah. Okay, we have time. Okay, we can make a demonstration. We can create a new zone if you want, if you have time. It's pretty cool. Okay, so now we can use security zone, in fact, to to put more security in browsing habits of your users, and it's very, very important, I think. With Security Zone, you can increase the overall IE security level, but you know that it doesn't replace security patch management, because you have some vulnerabilities you can cope with only security zones. So you have to patch your IE. Also, it's always the same thing. Okay, so you have some interesting links here. I think you have more links here than on your paper and on the CD-ROM, so you'll be able to download the presentation. You have some KB articles here, Microsoft Res Kits for IE, and some articles, interesting articles from Microsoft here. So we have a specialist. We can talk about that now. Yeah?
That's custom security zone you created, of course, only applies to all of the sites specifically applied to. Even with that in mind, it's just increased security. You still need to lock down the existing security zones, i.e., particularly to prevent all the custom cross-zone security attacks we see on an ongoing basis. In fact, I know Microsoft has documented how to lock down micro zone. You can follow those recommendations, which are also in place in XP Certificate 2. Would have been protected against all the managed vulnerabilities that happened in IE over the last year.
Yeah.
So it's just something we also need to keep in mind to lock down the already existing zones.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I didn't detail the graphical user interface because everyone knows it. In fact, you have to take every zone, each zone, and configure your parameters for each one, of course. And then you have to choose which domains I will put in which zone, etc. You can create 10 zones if you want and specify some domains in them. And for one, I allow ActiveXs but not active scripting. For the other, I will allow active scripting and not ActiveX, etc., etc., etc. So you can use very, very fine parameters on your browsing habits, in fact.
So I want to support that statement. What you said about configuring the Internet zone. The Internet zone is explicitly the remote site that is called the Internet zone. So if an end user is going to network with browsing to a bad site or a site, or if someone kicked off a web page through the site, and that site by default is going to go in the Internet zone. The Internet zone does allow use of script, ActiveX, Java, and those are frequently part of the requirements for vulnerability to be utilized. Now, that said, with regard to how you customize it in your own environment, you can create custom zones. Those architecture support effectively unlimited number of custom zones. Now, we at Microsoft do not support custom zones officially. And while our system works, there's some things that folks should be very, very aware of when they set out to use custom zones. So the first thing I want to caution, and I think your point goes to this, is that when you use a custom zone, you may want to use that custom zone to enable a particular web server within the corporation. So imagine you have a purchasing website that needs to use unsigned access control. You've got an unsigned access control from the vendor that's sold to the purchasing website. And it's on your intranet. And you pretty much trust it. Like you know where the customer is from. So you might create a custom zone for that professional website that you trust and allow a little bit lower security for that, but obviously only for that particular site. Also important is, on the flip side of that, is don't try to use a custom zone to be anytime you create a custom zone, you showed the registry settings in there. You showed some of the values that set the rules for those different zones. Every one of those zones, every custom zone you create should have all of the registry values populated. You should never kind of halfway populate a custom zone, and some of the rules and not the others. You should expect that. You have to be very explicit in how you configure that custom zone. So the other thing that you should know is that you did a good job of showing how to use the UI to add a site to the custom zone. And if you use the UI to add a site to the custom zone, that'll populate the registry correctly. If you attempt to manually add a site to a custom zone in the registry, the value that you set has to be a text value. So if you try to set the regular numeric value, let's say you have zone 50 and you put numeric 50 in, that isn't going to work now. You won't be able to parse that site as a part of zone 50. Trying to think. There are a couple other, the mark of the web was a feature that you demonstrated a little bit. That's a comment that you say at the header of the HTML to LIE where if it's on the local machine, where the site was getting saved from. There's some inconsistency about how mark of the web will function if the page was originally saved from a custom zone. But I actually don't think that should create any, it shouldn't create any security vulnerability that may introduce the functionality of the page and keep that page as up. I cannot say enough about using XGS2 to do this. We have done a ton of work in XGS2, not just to make the platform more secure by locking down local machine zone and being more restrictive about the way we download files that we navigate to. And frankly, it's like 15 other things that particularly some of the folks in this room will create. But in addition, specifically for management of the registry settings, if you use X62, you get a huge step forward compared to X51 because you have the ability to use the administrative templates to natively manage the policies for the machine business. And that's something that is new in X62, and that should really make it a lot easier to deploy and update customization to the existing zones. If you choose to deploy custom zones, those should work through the administrative templates as well. You have to extend those to my two big points here are use custom zones, some at your own risk, and be very, very cautious if you choose to do so. And SB2, get it, install it, love it. This is bigger.
Talk about the SB2 and the all of the versions of Windows. It would be really great if you could see precisely the changes Microsoft did to the various zones in SB2, because then all the versions of Windows can have those changes implemented through policy and through custom zones. And custom zones in particular, one of the first things I did is to create a custom zones for the internet zone, simply to filter everything on the HTTP protocol. Set up specifying specific sites. I know that you did quite a lot of great stuff in HTTP2. As a matter of fact, the zone concept itself has gone a bit further and gone into this also the data streams as well. If you download a file in Internet Explorer from Windows XP Service 2, the zone from which it is downloaded is stored into that file from a file called zone identifier, which means if you download that exe from the internet and try to launch that exe from your local machine, if that exe was downloaded from the internet zone, but it's not digital signed, Windows Explorer will pop up and ask you whether or not you trust this completely on your custom. There's quite a number of them.
And that actually...
And that's improvements that are not available in all the treatments.
Yeah. So to answer your original question, there are changes that we made to the zone settings. So for example, this is the existing local machine zone and we increased the security level. But we didn't just increase the security level for the local machine zone across all classes that we using before. We created it specifically so that IE is protected, but other applications can opt into that restriction. And that's actually a very, very, I mean, for anybody here who's in security, you know that the thing that keeps you from potentially making things as secure as possible is applications or something. Right? So by having this opt-in model for other applications that opt into the local machine zone lockdown, we effectively created a new zone, which is the local machine zone drive, and everybody else has a local one. And as an administrator, you're going to know best if other applications can still run at that low level, or if they should all be upgraded to their local level. You would just opt in as an administrator. In terms of making the changes down level, so I think the scenario you're talking about is got X52, I've learned about changes myself and making it done. Now I'm going to apply those to Windows stuff. Some of those things could be done, and some of that, there's a document called the changes for X52 on MSIE that I encourage you to look for. Maybe you can look at actually to get a link through the content. But I encourage you to look at that document and look at the changes for local machine code explicitly. Now, in terms of the changes to the other zone, X52 has updates to the code of Internet Explorer that you won't be able to replicate on a download machine. You need to have the updated
Speaking of the application names, we chose the other applications opt-ins, those security improvements. That's a very valid point. As an example, if you try to lock down the microcomputer zone, you completely disable like the next microcomputer zone. You'll have to drop on the games to my document installer.
Yeah.
Xbox won't run any of the user interfaces. Visual Studio will have problems with running the guides for new projects. You can get around most of that simply by using administrator approved activation controls and the chickle is part of the thing. But it's definitely not as elegant a solution as SB2 has in place. We can simply have a good process.
So it's free, coming to you soon, as soon as possible. And please download it and test it in your environment.
Okay. Okay, I'm on Windows 2003 here. When will be here?
Pardon, IE.
Yeah.
Right.
And we are waiting for SP1.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, do you know where it will be released?
I don't know when the 2003 server time one will be up. Don't know how.
Okay. It's pretty informal here. Great. Other question? Yeah?
Very beginning with the URL for your presentation.
Yeah? First one? I think it will be available on Black Hat website also.
I noticed you mentioned security HT local machine settings.
Sorry, on local
I
machine?
noticed on one of the later slides you mentioned the security HT only key
Mm-hmm.
that's available in the external settings zone. I think you pulled it out just over HT local machine.
Yeah.
When in fact it's supposed to be just HT on it. I know Microsoft also documented this and mentioned an
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah, okay. Yes, it depends. You're right. Okay, some other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.